Thank you for visiting the Combs Waterkotte website and our Federal Gun Crime Charge Defense Lawyers in Missouri website page. Regardless of the crime, we believe everyone is entitled to the best possible legal defense in the state of Missouri. We have created this audio version of our website page to help you better understand our services and protect your future, freedom, and reputation. If you have been charged with a federal gun crime in the state of Missouri, we can help. Don't face the state and court system alone during your federal gun crime charge. Contact one of our federal gun crime charge defense lawyers today at 314-900-HELP to protect your rights and future. Combs Waterkotte is committed to handling all federal gun crime charge defense cases with confidential care and understanding. We are not here to judge you. We believe that everyone in Missouri, regardless of the crime they have been charged with, deserves an aggressive legal defense and to have their legal rights protected. With that being said, let's discuss hiring our federal gun crime charge lawyers in Missouri and setting up a free consultation with our attorneys. Federal Weapons and Firearm Offenses Lawyer in Missouri. Federal weapons and firearm offenses can carry harsh penalties. If you are facing federal gun crimes charges, you need the seasoned Missouri federal weapons and firearms offenses lawyers at Combs Waterkotte on your side. Our team has handled over 10,000 cases just like yours, and we leverage that extensive experience to tirelessly fight for the futures of our clients. Federal weapons crimes. What to know? The federal government has limited criminal jurisdiction over firearm-related crimes. Instead, most police powers rest with the states. However, Congress has passed several weapons laws using its power over interstate commerce. Specifically, the federal government licenses gun dealers and regulates the firearms that people can sell or possess in the U.S. Moreover, federal laws dictate who can buy or possess a firearm. These federal laws are not limited to firearms. They also cover gun parts, like silencers, and automatic knives, like switchblades. The goal of these laws is to control the firearms market. For the most part, the courts believe these restrictions do not violate the Constitution's Second Amendment because they leave paths open for the lawful purchase of firearms for law-abiding Americans. Statutes covering federal weapons and firearm offenses. The U.S. Code includes one primary statute with over a dozen firearms violations and several additional statutes for more specific crimes. These statutes cover the following acts. Possession by prohibited people. Certain people are not allowed to possess firearms under federal law, including people who fall into the following categories: indicted or convicted of a felony, adjudicated as mentally unfit or committed to a mental institution after 16, subject to domestic violence restraining orders, convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence charge, fugitives, unlawful drug users, veterans dishonorably discharged, unlawful aliens and people present in the U.S. on non-immigrant visas, U.S. citizens who renounced their citizenship, anyone who intends to sell the firearm in furtherance of a felony, terrorism, or drug trafficking. Federal law also prohibits straw purchases. These are purchases where someone lawfully buys a firearm with the intent to sell or transfer it to a prohibited person. Under this section, possession includes both actual and constructive possession. Possession, sale, or transport of prohibited weapons. Federal law also prohibits transactions involving certain weapons. Prohibited weapons include destructive device, machine gun, short-barreled shotgun, short-barreled rifle. Several types of weapons can be considered destructive devices under federal law, such as explosives, like bombs and grenades, rockets with more than 4 ounces of propellant, missiles with more than a quarter ounce of explosive or incendiary charges, mines, poison gases, firearms with a bore greater than half an inch in diameter. Regulation of gun dealers. Anyone engaged in the business of selling, making, or importing firearms must have a firearm license from the federal government. People or businesses who run an unlicensed gun business violate federal laws. Additionally, licensed gun dealers can violate the law if they make a false statement when they apply for their dealer license, make false entries in the records required by federal law, fail to maintain federally required records, fail to conduct a background check before selling a firearm, sell a firearm to a prohibited person. Notably, gun dealers are not exempted from laws against gun trafficking. Thus, a licensed dealer who knowingly sells to a prohibited person could face gun trafficking charges. Possession and use of firearms. Even when a person can legally possess firearms, there are certain places they cannot have them, such as school zones or federal facilities. Additionally, having a gun while committing a drug trafficking offense or a violent crime is generally a federal crime. Defenses to federal weapons and firearm offenses in Missouri. Lack of intent. Most gun crimes must be committed knowingly. For example, suppose that a prohibited person borrows a friend's car. They get pulled over, and the officer finds a firearm under the seat. The person could defend themselves if they did not know the gun was in the car by asserting a lack of intent. Statutory exception. Federal gun laws exempt certain activities. Thus, the statute that prohibits possession of firearms in a school zone excludes firearms that are not loaded and held in a locked container. If you were arrested for having a gun in a locked gun safe, you may have a defense. Illegal search. Law enforcement officers must search for evidence. However, the Constitution restricts how these searches occur. Specifically, the Fourth Amendment requires officers to have a search warrant, obtain your permission, or prove the search falls into an exception, such as the plain sight doctrine or the automobile exception. A judge must exclude all evidence recovered in an illegal search. Why you should choose Combs Waterkotte for your federal weapons and firearm offenses case in Missouri. Federal gun charges require a defense team that understands not only firearm law, but also how the ATF and DOJ operate. Here's how we fight back, and why clients trust us to do it. What you get with our firm. Resources to fight the ATF, FBI, and U.S. Attorney's Office. In-depth knowledge of federal gun laws and regulatory loopholes. Experience in both the Eastern and Western districts of Missouri. Ability to challenge constructive possession, straw purchase, and intent-based allegations. Why clients trust Combs Waterkotte. Over 10,000 cases handled including high-stakes federal charges. Known for aggressive, precise pre-trial strategy and trial prep. Responsive, discreet counsel from day one of an investigation. Clients across Missouri trust us to protect both freedom and record. How we defend you from charges for federal weapons and firearm offenses in Missouri. Federal firearm charges often come alongside other offenses. We begin by reviewing your side of the story and gathering supporting evidence. Next, we build a defense using the facts, while identifying any violations of your rights. If possible, we'll pursue dismissal of the charges. If dismissal isn't an option, we'll negotiate with prosecutors for a favorable plea. If no fair deal can be reached, we're ready to take your case to trial and fight for your freedom in court. Contact Combs Waterkotte for help with your federal weapons and firearm offenses in Missouri today. A federal weapons conviction can lead to decades in prison. At Combs Waterkotte, we have the experience to help you fight these serious charges. Call 314-900-HELP or contact us online today to start building your defense.